Alexander Pierce stood by the tall windows of his opulent estate, staring into the fading daylight as if it might unravel the turmoil in his mind. His reflection on the glass was that of a man well beyond his 35 years. Exhausted eyes, tense jaw, and shoulders weighed down by cares that no amount of wealth could mitigate. 2 years had passed since his wife, Catherine, had succumbed to a rare and devastating illness. In her final moments, she had pleaded with him to remain strong for their only child, Adam, then just 5 years old. Alexander had done his best to honor that vow, but life since her passing had become a labyrinth of responsibilities and heartache. Grief had carved lines into his face that the boy often gazed at with a grave curiosity. Adam, now 7, was afflicted by the same rare disease that had stolen his mother. Doctors insisted it was not necessarily inherited, just a grievous coincidence. But that hardly mattered to Alexander, who had devoted his boundless financial resources to seeking a cure. Every medical expert in the field had visited his estate or welcomed Alexander into their clinics. Expensive treatments, experimental therapies, and months upon months of consultations had yielded minimal progress. Adam grew frailer, at times lost in a haze of discomfort that left him too weak to engage with the world. It was a chilling echo of Catherine's final year, and Alexander felt powerless to stop history from repeating itself. That sense of failing both his son and his wife's memory tormented him late into the evenings when the vast house felt emptiest. The estate itself was a sprawling modern construction perched on the outskirts of a major city. Vast hallways and lofty ceilings lent it an air of grandeur, but what truly defined it was the hush that seeped into every room. Maids and staff members moved with quiet efficiency, providing the boy whatever he required, but an almost sepulchral mood had settled across the property since Catherine's passing. Where laughter and conversation once flourished, now the subdued hush of worry lingered. Even the wind that rustled through the manicured rose gardens outside seemed to pass by in respectful silence. Night fell quickly one evening as Alexander checked on Adam, who was resting in a spacious bedroom filled with medical equipment. The child had a small laptop open, cartoons playing in the background with the sound muted. Adam seldom asked to watch anything now, preferring to read quietly or listen to the stories once told by his mother. Darkness settled like a blanket over the estate's gardens, and Alexander stood by his son's bed, murmuring gently that dinner would soon be prepared. Adam nodded, exhaustion clouding his bright eyes. It pained Alexander that the boy rarely had the energy to argue or protest anymore. His spirit had grown as delicate as his health. Conceding that he could not remain by Adam's side every moment, Alexander decided it was time to bring in specialized help. Over the last year, a slew of professional caregivers had come and gone. Some were highly qualified yet lacked the warmth Adam needed. Others were nurturing, only to reveal gaps in their expertise that left Alexander dissatisfied. In his frustration, he had even considered building a small personal clinic on the estate grounds. Yet he kept searching for that perfect person who could support Adam's medical needs while also being a gentle, uplifting presence. Advertisements were placed, connections were tapped, and eventually a new candidate was recommended. A woman named Clara Duval. One of Alexander's associates described her as a caregiver with extensive pediatric experience and a certain intangible empathy that set her apart. Intrigued, Alexander arranged a private interview. From the moment Clara walked into his study, he sensed a calm confidence emanating from her. She was in her late 20s, perhaps, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to carry both compassion and a hint of sorrow. She spoke in a voice so measured and warm that it eased Alexander's anxious mind the instant she began explaining her qualifications. She listened attentively as Alexander summarized Adam's situation, nodding sympathetically without interjecting empty platitudes. When she finally replied, her approach was meticulous. She discussed the potential medical regimens, home exercises, and ways to accommodate Adam's emotional fragility. Yet it was her personal insight, how to foster hope and resilience in a child facing chronic illness, that caught Alexander off guard. She talked about building an environment that felt nurturing and safe, about the power of small joys to revitalize someone battered by treatments. He thought he heard echoes of Catherine in Clara's words, though he brushed the notion aside as a trick of memory. Alexander hired Clara on a trial basis, but within the first few days of her tenure, it became clear she was different from her predecessors. Her attentiveness to Adam was complete, but never smothering. She respected the boy's limits while gently encouraging him to reach a little further. One more sip of water, one more attempt to sit upright without assistance, one more moment of laughter at something silly. She arrived each morning as the sun crept into the courtyard, ensuring Adam's medication schedule was precise. By afternoon, they would be reading stories together or playing small, imaginative games suited to his energy level. By evening, Clara would help Adam relax with a soft lullaby, an oddly familiar melody that tugged at Alexander's heart, though he could not place it at first. The atmosphere in the house subtly shifted. Alexander noticed staff members smiling more frequently, as if Clara's presence had introduced a quiet beam of hope. Even the gardens, once a place of sad reflection, took on a renewed sense of life when Clara wheeled Adam out to sit among the roses. Something about her caring spirit made the child want to see more of the world, no matter how small those steps. Adam began to engage more deeply with the books Catherine had left behind, sometimes reading short passages aloud for Clara to hear. Alexander would watch them from the living room window, a mix of gratitude and cautious optimism stirring in him. It was too soon to declare success, but the improvement in Adam's demeanor was undeniable. In the midst of this tentative relief, Alexander's pragmatic nature urged him to learn more about Clara. He asked for the usual references, which checked out only partially. Certain details about her background were murky. The hospitals where she claimed to have worked had no official record of her employment. Alarm bells rang softly in Alexander's mind. However, his staff also discovered references from private families who insisted Clara had provided exceptional care. He wondered if some part of her past was overshadowed by personal tragedy, perhaps a heartbreak or trauma that had forced her to leave mainstream institutions. He could see in her eyes a knowledge of pain that gave her a deeper empathy for Adam. Still, he was not a man to let mysteries linger near his son. Out of caution, he installed discreet security cameras around the estate, focusing primarily on Adam's bedroom and the adjoining recreational room. He felt guilty surveilling someone who showed genuine kindness, but paternal responsibility overshadowed any scruples. At first, the footage revealed nothing suspect. Clara's interactions with Adam were gentle, thorough, even tender. She would rub small circles on his back whenever he coughed, adjust his pillow with painstaking care, and whisper words of encouragement whenever she sensed him close to despair. She also introduced a light physical therapy routine, though Adam's doctors had insisted the boy would hardly benefit from strenuous exercise. Yet Clara found creative ways to make it look and feel like play. A small glimmer of vitality returned to Adam's expression each day. Still, something else cropped up on the recordings, something that nagged at Alexander. During the quiet afternoons, Clara would hum an old lullaby. It stopped him in his tracks the first time he heard it. He recognized it as the same lullaby Catherine had made up for Adam when he was just a toddler. Catherine's voice would fill the nursery with that gentle melody, weaving love and reassurance into the boy's earliest memories. Alexander remembered the words, not from any known song, but from Catherine's own improvisations. The lyrics, if one could call them that, were both silly and heartwarming. How then did Clara know them? Late one night, Curiosity got the best of Alexander. He played back that segment of video, his heart thumping, half expecting to discover it was merely similar. But each hum, each subtle variation was exactly as Catherine used to sing. He paused the footage, feeling a strange chill across his skin. Could it be that Adam had somehow tried to recall the tune and taught Clara? The boy might have said a few lines, but it seemed unlikely he could replicate it with such precision. Moreover, Clara's voice carried the same comforting cadence that Catherine had embodied, as if she had been present in the nursery all those years ago. He brought this observation to his closest friend, Ethan, a savvy entrepreneur who had weathered every storm with Alexander since their college days. Over a phone call, Alexander expressed his bafflement. "Ethan, there's no logical explanation for how she knows that melody. It's too exact to be coincidence. There's something more going on here." Ethan, grounded and pragmatic, suggested a rational approach. "Ask her directly. If she's as good for Adam as you say, she'll have no reason to lie." Yet Alexander hesitated. He worried that confronting Clara might disrupt the hopeful peace that was blossoming between her and Adam. Perhaps her knowledge was a simple fluke, or perhaps Catherine had once shared that lullaby with someone he never knew about. Nonetheless, the questions gnawed at him. Days turned into a week, and Adam seemed to bloom under Clara's care. He ate more eagerly. He listened to stories with lively focus, and even asked for short walks in the sunlit corridors. Each time, Clara was there to support his elbow, guiding his unsteady steps. The two of them shared quiet jokes that Alexander wasn't privy to, forging a bond that left the father simultaneously grateful and slightly envious. His relief about Adam's improvement was tempered by the sense that Clara harbored a secret, woven into her gentle presence. At times, she would glance at Alexander with a look that seemed knowing, almost empathetic to his sorrow. He wondered if she saw in him that same expression of heartbreak and worry. One day, after a particularly encouraging report from Adam's private physician, who noted a subtle but measurable improvement in his blood markers, Alexander returned to the estate brimming with cautious hope. He found Adam and Clara in the boys' playroom, quietly rearranging a set of wooden puzzle blocks. He watched them from the doorway. Clara gently guided Adam's small hands as he tried to piece together a landscape scene. A fleeting memory of Catherine teaching Adam to stack blocks years ago made his eyes sting with unshed tears. He cleared his throat, stepping inside. Clara's gaze lifted to meet his. There was neither guilt nor alarm in those soft brown eyes, just a calm acknowledgement that she knew he had been watching. Adam grinned proudly. "Look, Dad, I managed the sky part of the puzzle," he said. A hush overcame Alexander as he saw how steady his son's hands were compared to just weeks ago. He praised Adam's progress, placing a gentle palm on the boy's shoulder, then motioned for Clara to step aside for a private word. She followed him without hesitation. They retreated to Alexander's study, a large room lined with books and a single massive desk that had once belonged to his grandfather. When he turned to face her, he could see curiosity in her expression, as if she sensed the weight of his concerns. He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Clara, I've noticed you singing a lullaby to Adam. A lullaby I've never heard outside this home except by my late wife." He hesitated, searching her face for a flicker of surprise or alarm. "I'm trying to understand how you could know it. It was something Catherine improvised for Adam. She never wrote it down." Clara's features softened. If she was startled, she hid it well. For a moment, she looked as if she might tell him something he would not be prepared to hear. Then she spoke in a quiet, measured tone. "Adam shared a few notes with me. I must have picked them up without even realizing it." Alexander attempted to gauge her sincerity. The reply felt neat, almost rehearsed. Could a child who was ill, at times delirious with fever, truly replicate that lullaby so precisely? Alexander felt doubt creeping in, yet he had no proof that she was deceiving him. He also recognized that dismissing Clara for any suspicion could sabotage Adam's newfound vitality. Their conversation ended with Alexander thanking Clara for her dedication. She inclined her head politely, then left the study to resume caring for Adam. In her absence, the room seemed to expand with unanswered questions. Alexander leaned against the mahogany desk, mind churning. He thought of the missing references in her background and how her arrival coincided with a remarkable, though not fully explained, improvement in Adam's health. Then again, any suggestion that Clara had an ulterior motive seemed absurd. She spent her days soothing a sick child, offering him rays of hope. Could he fault her for that? He returned to the surveillance footage that evening, scanning hours of recordings in search of anything unusual. The camera feed captured Clara guiding Adam through gentle exercises, reading softly from beloved storybooks, and occasionally adjusting the tubes that administered his medication. She took no private calls, nor did she rummage through the estate's personal documents. She appeared to do nothing except care for Adam with unwavering tenderness. The lullaby reappeared in short fragments, as though she used it only when Adam seemed anxious, to calm him. Each time Alexander heard it, goosebumps prickled across his skin. Finally, exhaustion forced him to rest. That night, he dreamt of Catherine, a swirling half-memory of her final days, her voice faint yet reassuring. The dream lingered, overshadowing his senses until dawn spilled through the tall windows. When he awoke, the estate was already stirring with the staff's morning routine. He noticed an alert on his phone. The motion-triggered cameras had captured something at around 3 a.m. With dread and curiosity, Alexander opened the video. It showed Clara entering Adam's bedroom where the boy was stirring restlessly, caught in the throes of a nightmare or a spell of pain. Clara sat beside him, laying a cool hand on his forehead. Then she began to hum. This time the lullaby was even clearer, every note and pause reminiscent of Catherine's own voice. She cradled Adam's hand in hers, tears glinting in the corner of her eye as if she too carried a burden that mirrored his suffering. The camera's night vision cast the scene in muted greens, giving it a ghostly quality, but there was no denying the tenderness in Clara's posture. Adam's breathing eased under her gentle hush, and soon the boy fell into a calmer slumber. Alexander closed the file and stared into space, mind replaying what he'd just witnessed. The detail that struck him the most was Clara's tears. She wasn't merely a hired caretaker performing a task. She was emotionally invested, almost as though Adam's pain was her own. It filled Alexander with equal parts relief and unease, for it suggested a bond deeper than typical professional concern. He resolved to keep a watchful eye, telling himself it was for Adam's safety. Yet a more honest part of him wanted to understand the source of Clara's devotion. The unpredictability of the situation weighed heavily on him. Was it a blessing that she had arrived, or was something strange unfolding under his very roof? Late that afternoon, as he peeked into Adam's room, he found the boy awake, smiling at a small stuffed animal Clara had given him, a whimsical plush fox with oversized ears. Adam insisted it was a magical fox, a protector in the night. Alexander realized his son's imagination, once subdued by constant fatigue, was resurfacing. Whatever the truth about Clara's lullaby, Alexander could not deny that the child's condition was improving in ways no doctor had managed. For that alone, he felt indebted to her presence, overshadowing any flicker of doubt. If his staff whispered about her sudden arrival and the hint of mystery shrouding her past, Alexander would hush them. Adam needed this miracle, no matter how it had come to pass. And if the cost of that miracle was continuing to live with unanswered questions, then so be it. Yet questions have a way of demanding resolution. As the sun dipped below the horizon that day, painting the sky in vivid streaks of orange and gold, Alexander felt a new determination take hold. He would keep searching for the truth about Clara, but not at the expense of Adam's recuperation. In the silence of that sprawling estate, the hush broken only by his son's occasional laughter drifting down the halls, he breathed in a fragile hope. His life had become a careful balancing act between cynicism and faith, a pursuit of clarity that risked unraveling the glimmers of progress. In the back of his mind, the memory of Catherine's voice persisted, echoing in Clara's lullaby, weaving the lost mother into this new chapter of their lives. Nothing could fully prepare Alexander for what he would uncover. At times, the closest truths lie hidden behind the smiles of those we trust most, revealed only under the unrelenting gaze of a man desperate to protect his child. Though he did not yet realize it, this was only the beginning, the faint rumble of thunder before a storm that would test every conviction he held dear. Clara's secret, and its eerie resonance with his late wife, was poised to upset the delicate harmony that had only just begun to settle across the once desolate halls. Yet for now, father and son found solace in the caretaker's gentle presence, their quiet sanctuary an island of promise amidst the vast uncertainties of the future.